I worried when my spirited son Kyle started coming home later each day with vague excuses. When I checked up on him, I was shocked to see Kyle getting picked up by a convoy of black SUVs. I followed them to an imposing mansion where I uncovered a shattering truth that don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring stories. I knew something was wrong. All the signs were there. The late nights, the whisper of secrets Kyle kept locked behind a wary smile. My 13-year-old son was my light and my purpose. No matter what life threw our way, we always had each other. We'd always been thick as thieves, taking on the world together. I guess that's why his sudden distance cuts so deep. Kyle's always been an energetic boy. If he wasn't out playing sports or building things with his friends, he was practicing on his guitar. But lately, he's been staying away from home more frequently, and whenever I ask where he's been, I get a vague excuse and a "stop being so clingy, Mom." We'd been through so much. His father leaving, the endless bills, my job that barely covered our modest life. But watching as the boy who'd once told me everything started shutting me out was killing me. But even worse than the distance were the items I uncovered while doing one of my marathon cleans, scrubbing every corner of our tiny apartment to drive away the anxiety. Wedged in a hidden corner under Kyle's bed, I found a collection of brand new gadgets and a thick stack of cash wrapped in rubber bands. My heart beat so loud it echoed in my ears. Kyle was a smart and resourceful kid, but there was no way he'd saved up this kind of money from lawn mowing or doing odd jobs for the neighbors. But what could I do about it? I couldn't confront him directly, not with the way things had been between us lately. He'd just get defensive and lie about it. No, I'd have to be cunning instead. I put everything back exactly as I found it, and when Kyle turned up for dinner that evening, I acted like everything was normal. "What were you up to all afternoon?" I asked as casually as possible. Kyle shrugged. "Played soccer." I nodded and watched him dig his fork into the pot roast I'd prepared. I couldn't help but think that whatever he was hiding from me was dangerous. The next day, I couldn't help myself. I parked down the street from his school, watching the kids pour out of the doors, laughing, shouting, and carefree. Then my breath hitched. A convoy of sleek black SUVs pulled up, their tinted windows gleaming in the sunlight. Kyle strode through the school entrance as though he'd been waiting and marched over to the SUVs. He slid into the middle car like he'd done it 100 times before. I gripped the steering wheel, my heart pounding. Before I could think it through, I started following them, carefully keeping my distance. We drove out past the town's edge, where the small homes turned into estates and wealth dripped off every marble pillar. The SUVs turned into the entrance gates of a sprawling mansion, the kind you see in magazines, the kind that felt like an entirely different world from ours. I stepped on the gas and managed to race through behind them, mere seconds before the gates shut. I wasn't sure what I'd do now, but I knew I hadn't come this far to leave without answers. So, I marched up to the front door and pressed the intercom button. Moments later, a woman appeared. She was elegant and impeccably dressed, with a sharp gaze that sliced right through me. "Yes," she said, her voice cold. "What are you doing here? And how did you get in?" "All you need to know is that I'm here for my son, Kyle," I said. She looked me up and down, and I felt like a smudge in her perfect world. "You're Kyle's mother?" "That's right. Now, where is he?" She gave a thin, mocking smile. "Kyle is otherwise engaged. This isn't a place for people like you. You need to leave." My cheeks flushed with anger. "Look, lady, I don't care what you think. I'm not leaving until I see my son." Just then, Kyle appeared in the doorway, his face a mixture of guilt and surprise. "Mom?" he asked, glancing between us. "Ms. Anderson, please let her in." The woman sighed, clearly annoyed. "Fine, come in if you must." Inside, everything was cold and vast. There were marble floors that echoed with every step, and all the rooms I passed seemed designed for display, not comfort. My heart was pounding, and then I saw the man standing by the fireplace, watching me with a casual, calculating gaze that sent a chill down my spine. I stopped dead, staring at him. He was older, but there was no mistaking the line of his jaw and the way he held himself. It was Kyle's father, the man who'd walked out of my life before Kyle was even born, leaving me to scrape together a life for us on my own. He gave me a small nod. "Miranda," he said as if he were greeting an old friend. What is this?" My voice cracked, but I wouldn't let him see the weakness. He looked at Kyle, his expression softening slightly. "I've been looking for him since I started making serious money, and only recently found you both. Now, I want to make things right." "Right?" I spat, barely containing the rage simmering inside me. "After 13 years of nothing, you think you can waltz back in and fix everything with a few gifts?" He raised a brow, unbothered. "You've done your best, I'm sure. But look around, Miranda." His gesture took in the grandeur, the wealth. "I can offer him a life of stability, filled with opportunities. Not whatever you have." I felt the ground tilt beneath me. He couldn't be serious. You want to take my son from me?" He shrugged, a smirk tugging at his lips. "I'm pretty sure I'll win the custody battle, too. After all, I have the means and the resources to do right by the boy now. I'm sure they'll recognize the fact that Kyle would be better off with me." The room spun, and I clutched the edge of a nearby table, my nails digging into the polished wood. I couldn't lose Kyle. Not to this man who saw him as nothing more than an extension of his wealth, a trophy to parade around. But before I could find the words, Kyle stepped forward. His voice was low, but filled with defiance. "You think I want to live here? With you?" His face was pale, eyes blazing. "I went along with this arrangement because you kept throwing cash and stuff at me. Phones, money, anything I could get my hands on." He pointed at his father, his words sharp. "But I was always planning to sell it all. Every last gift and bribe. I just hadn't figured out how to get the money to Mom without making her suspicious. I took those things so I could help Mom with her bills and make things a little easier for her." His father's face froze, his confident expression faltering. Kyle looked him dead in the eyes, his voice unwavering. "You're nothing to me. All the money in the world won't make me forget that you left us. You're a stranger, and if you're going to try to take me away from Mom, then I don't want anything to do with you." Pride swelled in my chest, mixing with a fierce relief. I reached out, pulling Kyle to me, feeling his steady heartbeat against mine. I looked at his father, not bothering to hide the anger in my eyes. "Stay away from us." I didn't wait for a response. I led Kyle out, each step feeling like a victory. The next morning, we tried to settle back into the quiet of our life, but the events of the previous day still weighed heavily on us. When a knock sounded at our door, it startled us both. I opened it to find a man in a crisp suit, holding a bag. He handed it over without a word, disappearing before I could ask any questions. Inside the bag was a staggering amount of crisp $100 bills, the kind of money I'd only ever seen in movies. There was a note tucked in among the cash, scrawled in a familiar, rushed hand. "Forgive me. I just wanted to make things right." Kyle looked at the money, then at me, his face hardening. "We don't need his money, Mom. We have each other." I reached for his hand, squeezing it. "I know, sweetheart, but maybe we could use this to finally catch our breath, to have a real chance at a fresh start." We sat there, side by side, letting the weight of that decision settle. Whatever we chose, we'd do it together. Because in the end, it wasn't the money or the mansion or even his father's shadow that defined our life. It was us standing together no matter what came next.